I am the Night Bringer. Now listen.
Hey everyone, Dozer here bringing you a new video. This time joined by the illustrious friend of the channel, Sloopdoop. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing great. It's a warm, sunny day in Tennessee, and it's so good to be catching all of the Pro Tour Singapore coverage that we've been getting to see. And so we're going to get to talk today about the alt arts that we've been seeing revealed at Pro Tour Singapore, as well as the implications for Living Legend and going into the future. So let's get right into it. So first off, for those unaware, there has been a reveal for these new alt art cards at Pro Tour Singapore. Obviously, we have the Pro Tour heroes, the Beach Party heroes. We've got Kasai, we've got Syndra, and we've got Victor. And those have been a big splash hitting the scene here. And so people are really enjoying that. Had to do it, sorry. They're also revealing a Light and Shadow collection for Prism. Prism and Viserai are these two parts of this set that we know of so far, or this product. And they've revealed new artworks for both Luminaris, Phantasmal Footsteps, Spellbound Creepers, and Reaping Blade. And they look phenomenal. And I'll put them up on the screen here. They are just absolutely awesome. And so I wanted to get Sloop's opinion here about the alt arts that are coming into the game. So let's back up for a second and talk about heroes. How do you feel about the hero alt arts, in fact, that we've been getting recently? Specifically, like the pool party heroes.
So personally, while I've seen some people share some discontent, they don't like the art. It's like kind of League of Legends style in that. Personally, I love bright, vibrant art, so they're actually kind of up in my wheelhouse. And honestly, I think these kind of promos are exactly what LSS should be doing because, like, you're using your own IP and then you're creating like different skins for them and making them rare promos, and not everybody's going to be appealed by them, but like you don't go after them if you don't want them. And I think just having different art styles of different heroes is actually a really cool way to shake things up. Like you can use the regular Marvels, but then you have these like promo versions that other people can chase. And I think it lets people diversify their decks and make their deck. We talked a little bit beforehand. You talked about how you like to make your decks very thematic and you want art that, you like, we'll talk about that after, but you like the new Prism cards just because they have like the Prism theme on it, and like the footsteps are literally her feet, like they're her legs and feet. So having that option for players, I think, is cool. And I mean, let's just be honest with ourselves, okay? First off, the Victor one, I love that they gave him the horse pool floaty. Like that is a really clever way of doing it. And the Kasai and Syndra ones, I mean, let's just be honest with ourselves. This community is like mostly dudes. Like if I look at my channel analytics, it's like 98% guys. And having, the cute women heroes in bikinis, like there are going to be a lot of people who go crazy over that. Like they know their audience, they know the market that they're appealing to, and they are widely appealing. And I do think this is the way that LSS should be doing, like their alt arts, is making fun promos. And I believe that they try to make them to fit where the Pro Tour is. Like we had mentioned before, like the Sink Below, and I know we'll get into that a little bit later. The one that, from the UK has like the cookie dipping in the tea, and it's like very thematic for where they are. So I think that they're actually, I like them. I think they're doing a really good job with the promo side of things.
Yeah, I think so too. I first saw the Pro Tour Singapore pool party hero things, and I thought, this is so obvious. Why didn't they do this earlier? Like you're saying, skins. I mean, we know the big games in the world right now, Fortnite, League of Legends, you name it. Even I think the big gacha games that are popular more in Asia, like Genshin Impact and stuff like that, it's all about customization of your game pieces and making them yours. Even Magic does this. I know that's kind of like a forbidden word in Flesh and Blood, or it has been in the past, but being able to customize your artworks and get the ones that just resonate with you more and still be able to play the game, I think just appeals to people and get to have more of that self-expression, especially in Flesh and Blood, where, let's be real, the decks converge pretty quickly. It's very easy to tell, like, oh, this is the version of the deck that's good, and all of these are the ones that are less good. And people kind of solve the decks pretty quickly. And obviously there's some nuance here and there. But when people are trying to express themselves by their, oh, here's my 2 cards different from the other 80 cards that the other people are running, getting to express yourself by saying, oh, here's my pool party, themed thing, or, oh, here's my Sink Below, which I got from London, or here's my, Ravenous Rabble I got from, I think it was somewhere in Asia, if I remember correctly, but either way.
Oh, the
I
it's like the women with the
yeah.
ritualistic sacrifice. Yeah, the one that
Mhm.
looks like it, the one that almost looks like it should have been Swarming Gloomvale instead of Ravenous Rabble, because like it fits the Runeblade style a lot more. But it's a really nice
Mhm.
promo.
Yeah, or then you got like Spike with Blood Rot, I think, which is like someone putting
Mhm.
poison on a cake. These
Yeah,
cool artworks just make you pause when you're playing the game and you're like, oh, nice. And when you're the opponent, and when you're the person playing it, you're like, I wonder if they're going to say something. Here's my card. I'm also going to kill you. So
yeah.
it's kind
Well,
of the 2-for-1.
yeah, and I think one of the things, like, while I love them doing cards that go in decks, let's be honest with ourselves, the promos that are gonna probably have the most like desire behind them are going to be the heroes, equipment, and weapons because they sit on the board. Like your hero is there at all times, always. So having an alt art of that versus like the Sink Belows, you're only gonna play 3 of them in the game, and you're only gonna see them briefly. And obviously that's still a great card. I mean, Sink Below is such a ubiquitous card. That's a great promo to have and to continue to do different versions of. Just because like it's a common card and you could just get really cool arts and people can find the ones that they like. But the heroes, I think, are like just a slam dunk. Like we've seen with the Marvels, especially. I mean, the young Marvels don't cost anything because nobody cares, right? Nobody's playing the young formats in the same way that they're playing CC. But the adult heroes, like everybody loves the Marvel heroes. Like if you can get one, you're gonna go, and afford it. You're gonna go and get one. So
Or if you pull it, right, you get lucky and
mhm,
you pull your Marvel Gravy Bones or whatever, and all of a sudden you're
I
like,
wish.
well, now I'm a Gravy gamer, right? It's even if you weren't interested in the hero
Mhm.
before, getting that Marvel is a really big incentive to be like, oh, this is really sweet.
Dude, I didn't get to pull a Marvel of Gravy, but when Mistvale came out, I pulled 2 Marvel Adult Enigmas and a new. I remember I got the Enigma new in a case, and I sold them for more than the case was worth. And then I pre-release, I think, or not pre-release, it was, sorry, draft the next day. I did one and I pulled an Enigma, like a second one. So I was like, cool, I just get to keep one. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I remember.
they are like amazing. It's great value to either pull one or to get one to play or just to sell to somebody who wants it. And so
It's so
doing the hero
nice.
promos just seems like a slam dunk.
For sure. Yeah, it's so nice too because if you're a new player, right, getting into the game, the marbles are such a useful thing because either you get to get a really rare card that you probably wouldn't have bought into anyway, and you get to have this strong resonance with the hero. You're like, oh, I want to play Marvel, Verdance or whatever. But if you don't care about the bling and you just want to get into the game, you can afford a large amount of upgrades to your deck and feel
Mhm.
really good about it. And whoever is like really entrenched in the game can get the cool Marvel. So it's really puts the T in TCG in that way to have all the different versions, right? So now that we've talked about the pool party stuff, let's talk a bit more about that Light and Shadow collection that everyone's kind of curious about. Maybe not everybody, but definitely myself and a couple other very staunch Prism enjoyers are interested. So again, I'll put the cards up on the screen here. We have a new version of a new artwork of Luminars. This is the original one, so it is illegal to run in Classic Constructed currently, unless they change the whole Living Legend weapon rule that they instituted.
They're not bringing that
Then
weapon back.
yeah, they
If they
really
do,
aren't.
they're banning it immediately.
Yeah, it's kind of good. It's kind of strong.
It's kind of broken.
It's a good card.
Yeah.
Um, and then we got a prism themed version of Phantasmal Footsteps. Now, as you can see here, the artwork is basically just prism with some really nice full art action going on, and it is just awesome. I'm not a shall we say shoe enjoyer myself or shoe region enjoyer. I know that there's a lot of people in Flesh and Blood who are, but I do just appreciate. You can see Prism's robe. You can see that it is a Prism themed card. It'll fit very nicely with your Vestige of Soul, your Halo, your Empyrean Rapture, and if we ever do get a Light Illusionist arm piece, then it'll fit very nicely aesthetically with that as well. Things like Phantasmal Footsteps are nice because it's kind of got that purple ethereal quality, and it's the goat. It's been around since the beginning. But I'm super stoked to try and get my hands on this card. And there's also the Viserai cards we can briefly show. We've got the Reaping Blade, and we've got the Spellbound Creepers. So again, very powerful equipments, notably very powerful legendary equipments that are getting printed in alt arts. And these are some of the most popular classes in the game, Illusionist and Runeblade. So what about Sloop? What about your thoughts on these artworks and reprints?
So I actually have a lot of thoughts. I guess to start with the reprints, like obviously the Prism ones are amazing, and I know you don't really care about the collector side of things as much, but I do want to touch on that because I could see like even as somebody, I own a cold foil Luminaris, and I had bought this for like $300 back in the day, cold foil Phantasmal Footsteps. And there is that side that you could say like, oh, the value of these are going down because they're making these new Marvels, but at the same time, like this artwork is still absolutely gorgeous. I love it. I love the original Luminaris too. And I mean, I've been using these for years, so I'm going to continue to use them. Like, it doesn't matter. I've got my Prism, like, the new Prism deck right here. So, I know that there's going to be a side of people who go like, oh, they keep making better versions of older cards, but it's like the art is different. These are a lot harder to get. Like, these are going to cost a lot of money. Let's just be real. But at the same time, like, I'm not going to lie, they're some of the most gorgeous cards they've ever made. Like, the footsteps with actually being Prism is really, really nice. Like, as much as I love this artwork, like, I'm not going to lie, man, the Prism ones, like, they look really good. The Luminaris, I don't know. I like the angels coming out of it, but I don't really like how it's kind of opened a little bit. Like, that's the only part that I'm not as big of a fan of. I don't really care. I kind of prefer it being closed in. But then you look at the Viscerai stuff, and like the Reaping Blade looks sick as hell. Like, that is, I think I did it in a video of like facts you didn't know. Like, the Reaping Blade, I found out reading through the story, is a cultist spine. Like, he literally takes the spine, rips it out, and like fills it with ether, snaps it forward, and turns it into the weapon. And I think that version of it really looks like a spine a lot more. So they really got in on the art. And then the Spellbound Creepers look sick as hell for the most expensive version of an Iron Rot boot. So
It's so
it's like 9 times out of 10, like, I swear every time I played that card, every like 2 games, I'll use it like once to actually get my turn to go with the go again, and then it just blocks one. That's but it's still a very good card. Even that couple times you use it in a game is like very key to actually unlocking big turns. But I will say one thing I don't get as much is that it's supposed to be light and shadow, but Viscerai is a non-talented hero. They're doing the OG Viscerai, so it's not really light and shadow. Like, Spellbound Creepers are just a Runeblade card. They're not a shadow card. You could have done like Carrion Husk, because these are LL decks anyway. So, oh no, Carrion Husk is banned in LL, not in CC. Never mind. So that's why. Okay, never mind. I had that mixed up. But yeah, it is. So I guess I understand. But it's weird that they did Prism and Viscerai and not Prism and Chain, right? Like, I think those, because I'm going to be real. I think both Chain and Viscerai just kind of run Prism over no matter what. Like, they're so aggressive and fast. Like, what is Prism really going to do unless you're just playing a Herald build? But then you're just going to play the new Prism, not the old one, if you're just running straight Heralds. So it is interesting. But, maybe this also is a notion that maybe Monarch 3 is coming down the pipeline, and Viscerai maybe is going to be a Shadow Runeblade in it. Because if they're putting him in a light and shadow thing, that is an open option. So, but honestly, I think they're cool. It is a little bit of a bummer that they're Gen Con exclusives, but I think I don't care that the Marvels are Gen Con exclusives. I don't like that the LL decks are Gen Con exclusives. That kind of bothers me a little bit, because like LL, and I know we're going to talk about this, LL is a format that they're putting in Worlds. They want to grow. They're now doing a proper ban list in, and it's like, okay, but then 99% of your player base can't get LL Armory decks to start playing. Like, because they're like, I'm sorry, I'm not spending hundreds or thousands of dollars traveling to an event just to buy them,
Yeah, and so a couple of things there, right? First off, Gen Con, obviously very cool, historic type of, a convention that people go to for years and present new games at. And so LSS getting to go there and show their wares and get people interested in the game, it's a great way to build the game.
Huge new market. That's incredible.
But they don't need event exclusive products to do that, because one, the people that are going to that convention are almost exclusively not Flesh and Blood fans, just by the numbers. And so they're the people that are going to be wasted on having these like premium items that are only able to be obtained there. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure LSS has the reasons for doing it, but as a player since 2021, since Monarch came out, it's a real bummer for me that I can't just, and plus they only released this information like the other day. So if you weren't already planning on going to Gen Con for, months ahead of time to plan your travel, time off of work, whatever, then it's really a tough ask to be like, okay, well, I'm not local to there, so I can't just go. And then so you feel like you're missing out. And it's fine to like have the Marvels there. Like, I don't need a Marvel to, whatever. I'd be perfectly happy with just a normal art frame, like small standard layout of the card of just the new art, right? I think that'd be sick. And maybe that's what they put somewhere, but maybe a gem pack or whatever. But I think that's the thing about the alt arts that I feel like is a bit of a miss. We talked about before how they're promos and how that's a really good way to kind of chase after that card and everything. But it's weird to me that you only have the super mega premium alt art, and then you also have the nothing else, right? You have the base version. Like, so you don't have a in between step of like saying, oh, this is my non-foil alt art version of the hero, right? Which can still be a promo, right? But maybe more of like a more accessible promo, like a RTN or what, like participation promo or something like that. Because I know that there was a lot of feedback from collectors where during Dynasty specifically, the Marvel equipments, the cold foil equipments, and then the rainbow foil equipments made them feel bad when they pulled the cold foil because it wasn't the big hit. But at the same time, if you had a non-foil, rainbow foil, cold foil, or Marvel whatever, then yeah, you're still getting. Like if you pull the rainbow foil, you're still sad that you didn't get the best version, but you still have a aesthetically pleasing card. Like rainbow foils are gorgeous, cold foils are gorgeous, Marvels are gorgeous, and if you just want the card to play with, then having the non-foil like the Skull Cap or the Crown of Providence. I love their community nicknames a lot more though. They got the Crown of
Dull
Poverty
Cap and yeah.
the Dull Cap. Yeah, so
What are we going to
like,
call Balance of Justice? Because that's going to get reprinted at some point in non-foil as well. At some point,
I trust the community to find something real good. I trust them, but the point is like I think the making the alt arts available in non-extremely expensive form, I think is still cool. People want to customize their decks, especially if they're a casual player. I know that people have been talking a lot about the price of Flesh and Blood lately and how hard it is to onboard new players. My local scene has been getting a steady inflow of new players over time, but the standard like core group of people is still the really entrenched players. And I can't help but think that if you had these alternate art versions of the cards that were more accessible to the new player or maybe even marketed towards the new players would really help get them into the game, because then it's less about, oh, I'm getting my face kicked in every single armory because I don't know every card in the game. I don't know all the interactions. I'm just learning the game. But then you can say, oh, but hey, I have my Victor and his pool floaty, and I got to throw this cool attack or use this cool weapon, and people commented on it, made me feel good about expressing myself. So I think that would give casuals another way into the game as a added bonus. And I think the premium version is still going to command the premium price tag. I mean, I think Tunic, even if the card is desirable, no matter what version of Tunic it is, it still always commands that price. So I don't think you have to worry too much about like devaluing the cards. But if LSS is trying to, scoop up some fear of missing out at Gen Con and, whatever, then you're going to get some bites for sure. And one of them might be me. So.
Yeah, it's you mentioned actually, I kind of this is something I've been thinking about because I have been listening to kind of the collector discourse lately, and they're kind of discontent at LSS doing reprints, and it baffles me to no end. How like I've seen people complain about like Command and Conquer getting reprinted, about Codex getting reprinted, and all this stuff, and even like Tunic and Bright Lights. And I think Tunic and Bright Lights is a great example where it dropped to like 70 or so USD, 70, 80 USD. But if you look at the price now, it's like 150, 60 USD. Like the price rebounds as the player base grows. Reprints, what they do is like with Codex, it's now like $40, $45, which for a Majestic that's just a 2-class Majestic, I think is actually a reasonable price. Still a great card to pull. Nobody's going to be like, oh man, I only pulled a $40 card in the back of my $5, $6 pack. Like, oh, what a waste of money, And the thing is like what reprints do is they open up a window of time for players to buy the card at a more accessible price. And the card's going to like give it a year. Codex will be back to like $80 for both copies, because if they come out with a new Ranger or Assassin that are very desirable, that card's going to shoot back up in price because the supply is going to dry up at some point. And to mention about, you were talking about like alt art, like non-foil copies. I don't know if they need to do it for all the promos. Like obviously every art, like the pool heroes, I think that's okay as their the event exclusives, but I think it would be cool if they do these reprints of Reaping Blade, like a rainbow foil non-extended art version of these Marvel, like the Prism and Viscerai cards, the 2 legendary equipment and the weapons, as if we get Monarch 3, because we know Monarch. I think it's coming next year. I've heard rumor that next year is a slated time, but that could be just hearsay from the community. Don't quote me on that. But if it does come, it would be cool if they were like gem pack. You could get like the rainbow foil version, which is like non-extended art, but with that art in it. That would be really cool. Or as like an extra card to pull in the set itself, or something like that. That would be really sick. But I do agree where like having versions of cards that are a bit cheaper and easier to get versus the more expensive versions. Like even I think the legendaries have done a good job. For the most part, high seas, the legendary demand is really high even for the rainbow foils, but also the cold foils are a bit harder to get because they're only in the treasure packs. So it is a balancing act, but I do agree, like getting more accessible versions or having different arts for cards, I think is actually a bonus. Like you had mentioned, we've talked about like blinging out decks for people that don't care. Even when I played Yu-Gi-Oh, one of the things I liked about that game is that they had like different rarities. So they'd have like regular super rares, which were just a normal foiling, but then they'd have like ultra rares, which is like a textured foiling, and other ones. And I'm the kind of person where like even if I can't get the highest rarity, I still like to get at least like a base foil. So even with my gravy deck, I don't have the means. I've mentioned this on Twitter once, but I am going to be a father in a few months, and so I just don't have the ability to throw money at this game anymore because I got mouths to feed. So it's like I've had to change my priorities. But even though I don't have all the gold foils of like golden tipples and swells and that, I've just been grabbing rainbow foils when I can because like I at least like to have a foil. And so I do like that the game has been expanding a little bit more on that. And I actually would like to see more of that, like more options for cards so people can kind of pick their point and like, oh, I'll grab this. If you don't care about foiling at all, you just grab the basic non-foils or the basic rarities, save as much money. And then maybe like a tier up, you can get like the rainbow foil, which is maybe a couple dollars more. But then there's like the high-end one that's hundreds of dollars more, whatever.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. First off, congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
I've been following that school of thought since I got into the game, where my Prism deck is 100% foil. However, it's not 100% extended art promo. It's not 100% cold foil. It's not 100%.
You don't have the cold foil arc lights?
I do not have the cold foil arc lights, nor will I ever be purchasing them because those are
I have rainbow
insanely.
foil.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I've got a stamped rainbow foil from Nationals one year. Ooh,
That's sick.
But the point is, right, is like the cards still look beautiful. Right, the rainbow foil, and plus they all match. I know I've said this a lot of times, but like I care more that my cards match than what they look like individually. So, for instance, it kills me that the only figments that you can run are non-foil and cold foil because neither of those things match all the other rainbow foil normal arts that are in my Prism deck. So, but it does give you that existing sliding scale, and I think that if LSS continues that with the promo arts as well, that they'll be well served to do so because it was really great as an intro player. I got all non-foil Prism cards. Over time, I was like, you know what? My buddy actually goaded me into doing it. He's like, hey, you should get, like, your deck's really strong. You should get it all foiled. I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. And so I eventually got all the cards. And I actually, just the other night, finished buying my last Light and Illusionist foils that I didn't have. I own every single card, but for those two, for that talent and class combination in foil, no matter how bad they are, and I'll have them, right? And so most of them were like dirt cheap, and I had the ability to go get non-foils, which I started with, graduated to rainbow foils, had the option to go for the giga expensive, everything cold foil, everything promo, everything extended art, but it didn't appeal to me aesthetically and price-wise, so I just didn't do it. And so I would really like for these alt arts to have a similar pattern of, hey, you can get the low rarity, you can use the alt art, it's cool, and if you want to show your commitment to the class or really bling it out, you can do that still. I don't think you have to only give the alt art the mega giga treatment because you don't want to, like, you want them to retain value. I think they're going to have tons of value just because they are so cool. They have such demand. People love them. That's where the value is going to come from, not the scarcity, I would hope.
Yeah, I mean, there is a level of like you can't have a million copies of a card floating around and then it's just like dirt cheap, right? And that's the thing. Like, to be fair, even to the collectors, like there is the value of like if you're gonna spend thousands and thousands, like there are people who dump like tons and tons of money on the game. They buy. I saw somebody on don't even know who it was. Somebody was at Singapore and they bought, I think it was the Prism statue, which is like, I think isn't it like 10 grand or something. They
It
had
sure
bought
is.
3 cold foil arc lights and like other promo, like Prism stuff. And they were like, this is the most expensive trip I've ever taken. Right. And it was just like, obviously somebody who's deeply in love with the game, loves the hero, bought all this stuff. So you want some stuff to have value because you do need to appeal, like whether we like it or not. I know some people are like, oh, get rid of the collectors, investor types or whatever. But like, it is good for a game to have people who have a lot of money and spend a lot of money because it's kind of what makes the whole company make an income and continue to give us the game. And so this is why it is a careful balancing act. And like, I don't want I've always been an advocate that like even when they reprint stuff, they're doing exactly what I had said, which is I made a big video on the price of the game, and I'm like, I think using the expansion slot to just slowly reprint these Majestics that are like in demand, to do it at a rate where it's like you're not going to drop the price to nothing, but you're going to make them more accessible. Command and Conquer was, only maybe like 15, 20 off the original version because the new art was like even better. I love the new art so much, but I don't have any because I already own my copies. So it's like I'm not going to go buy new ones just because, maybe one day. But I'm going to be honest, I don't know about you, but like I'm kind of tired of running Command and Conquer in decks. Like I'll play it in like one of my decks and then the rest of them, like whatever, I'll just replace it with something more interesting because cards, like I've played it so much that it's like I'm just kind of bored of this now. If I'm going to an event, I'll play it because it's a good card, but like at the Armory, there's so many decks. I'm like, I'll play something else. But the Codex reprint I think was great for having the price of the card. So instead of $300 for your playset or $260 to $300, it's now like 100 to 100, like about 120 to 150, which is like half the price, which is very good if you're buying into the game, and it's still worth something. It's not like the card's $10 now. So I think that LSS have been doing a good job, but it is a careful balancing act, and I've said it a million times. People want to buy cards cheap. They never want to sell them cheap. They want their cards to go up, never down. But the reality is, like, there is a balance, and you're going to have to accept that sometimes your cards are going to lose value. Sometimes they're going to reprint stuff or make new arts of stuff that become more desirable than, the old ones. But it is just kind of the nature of things. Like, there needs to be a constant, flow of things that people want to buy because at the end of the day, it's a consumerist hobby, and they need to make their money off of us going nuts for the new stuff. So there is some give and take, I think, with it.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that because I feel like a lot of people fixate on the supply side of the price equation in TCG's secondary markets, right? So my background's in economics. Obviously, everyone's heard of supply and demand. Just a quick little, don't let your eyes glaze over. I swear it'll be interesting. But basically, people always fixate on the supply side. Oh, this is rare, therefore it is valuable, right? You cannot get a lot of them, so people compete over the copies that exist. You compete by spending more money, and then boom, price goes up. That's your limited run of promo cards. That's your limited run of cold foil hearts. That's all of these things. And yeah, supply is definitely a key part of it. But that's not the only thing that can impact price. The other thing is demand high, right? So if you create a card that has zero demand but is very rare, like Deathmatch Arena, yeah, there's going to be some people that are willing to pay for it more than like $1, but it's not going to command the same price as even a card like Codex of Frailty was, where it was over $100 at certain points for a non-foil copy because it was so demanded, because it was so powerful and so playable and so iconic and so good. So one of the things that I think LSS has done well for the value of their cards and the buy-in for players is that it's an eternal format game. You know that your cards, except for heroes and except for their signature weapons, are almost guaranteed to stay in the game. Some cards are very clearly bannable, like Awakening when it came out. Like that card was insane, very justified.
Tales of Aria was just insane.
Sure was, and so we're still feeling those repercussions now. But the demand side for all of these powerful cards is what's driving the price, not the rarity. And we see that for Majestics, which go down to $1, 50 cents, $2. They're not retaining a value that is commensurate with their rarity in the set. So like I've done this on my channel before with the video about how much like the Flesh and Blood market works and how all this stuff works. You're only going to get about like 7 Majestics a box. So if you're paying $100+ for a box, average out that per Majestic that you're expecting to pull, and that's about your expected value per Majestic and the cost, right? So it's like $15 or something on average is what you're expecting. Most Majestics are not $15. In fact, Rosetta was one of the first classes in a long time where a good amount of Majestics actually were worth what they should be worth relative to the value of the box. So the fact that and that's because they're powerful. They're powerful, strong Majestics that were in popular heroes that were fun to use, and so people were able to get value out of them. And so I always balk when people bring up the, oh, my card is worth less now after reprint, because you bought the card because you valued it. Like, the value that you had for that card was $100. Now that it's $40, it doesn't mean that like yours is now bad. It's, you still got it out of it. You've still been using it. You've still had that benefit of it. It's just that now other people also can. So unless you just like having stuff that other people don't have, which maybe some collectors do, maybe that's the whole point. But, you know, unless you're specifically trying to be that mentality of, oh, I want to have things that other people don't have and that gives me value, then you still have your card. It's still playable. It's still strong. So you don't need to sell your Command and Conquer now that a new artwork came out. It still works. You can still take it to your tournament. You can still play it. It still does the same thing. And it's still a good card. So there's nothing lost on your end there other than unless you felt special by having something that other people didn't have, right? So demand side versus supply side, I think that that's not talked about a lot of. People just kind of focus on the supply side a lot and being like, oh, the value of my card went down. But a similar market in the world is real estate. And we all know how crazy the real estate market is, where it's like, I want the value of my house to go up. And then other people are like, hey, I can't afford a house. So I think it's very similar in TCGs, even, where people want the value of their assets to appreciate. They don't want it to depreciate. Even if you're living in a house, you don't need the value to go up, but you only need the value to go up if you're selling it, right? And you're trying to upgrade a house or something. And so that's a whole different conversation. But anyway, point is, I love the new CNC artwork too. A lot of the promos are really cool. I don't buy into a ton of them, but I do think alt arts are good for the game. I think they add a lot to the game, and I think we're in agreement on that. And so how do we think that the alt art should be approached? I know we talked about a lot of options, but if you could just crystallize it down into a focused answer, what do you think LSS should do if you were at the helm with alt arts?
Honestly, I would just keep doing what they're doing. I think doing alt arts of the reprints of cards is really good. Because the other thing is, I know some people are like, oh, we don't need new arts, but it's like, one, every game has done different arts for cards over time. Like, especially like, let's say E-Strike or Command and Conquer. Those are old cards now. They're over 5 years old. So it's like, now they're finally like, I personally expect that we'll get E-Strike in the next set. It just seems like an obvious card to reprint. And I already have 3 rainbow foil copies of the Unlimited, not Alpha, obviously. Those are thousands of dollars. But like, I have my premium versions. But I would love to get another playset, you know, because like that is a card that is playable in multiple decks. And I would love to be able to, you know, like I've got the Ira deck that came out and I'm upgrading it. I actually have 2 Ira decks because I built my budget one, upgraded it, and then I have the Armory deck, and they're 2 different strategies, right? The Kodachis are totally different. But I would love to get E-Strikes for them, but I don't want to take them out of the deck that they're in right now. So it's like getting more copies is really good, and having different art, like you then have more. Again, we were talking about the personalization, and like some people, you know, like the original Command and Conquer art. I think more people like the newer art, which is why the newer copy is more expensive than the older copy, because people are like, oh no, I want the dude with the 2 swords, looks way cooler than just the Emperor pointing, you know. And I think like the way they're doing with promos and all that kind of stuff is really, really nice. You know, I think it'd be cool maybe if like gem packs had a couple alt arts would be kind of cool, like of cards that they did. But there is also the question of like, how much do you want to commission artists? Is it really worth like the extra money to get the artwork that's different? You know, they do it for promos. I don't know. I think that they're actually just doing it exactly how I would like to see more hero promos in different arts. That'd be really cool. Like just getting different versions. And another thing that they could do with alt arts though is, so LSS likes to reward stores for supporting them. And I think maybe they could do this at the 10-year mark, but they could do what Magic did, and they used to do from the vault sets, which were a terrible foiling process. They curled like crazy back then, and back then foils were good. They weren't like as bad as they are now. Maybe they work on the zero gauge technology and use that, because the I think Slippy's still the only one that they've used, and they're still working on the technology. But they could do a 5-card set where it's 1 copy of each card, maybe 10, maybe they pick, you know, they pick like maybe some higher end cards, but also even things like Sink Below, which is a card that has a ton of alt arts. But you could say, we're going to sell it to a store. It's like $20 for you guys to buy it, but you can sell it for like $100. That's what Magic did with From the Vault. They would give it to stores for cheap, and then stores could sell it for a premium because it was just alt arts of cards. It wasn't like the base printings. It was just, these are pieces you want if you want to foil out your deck. And the players would scoop that up. I mean, people would buy 3 of each just to foil out their decks with the cool promos if they wanted. And I think that could be a really cool way to say, hey, all the stores that have supported us for all these years, here is a product that like you will make good money on. We're only going to print a limited amount of them, and it is all just alt arts of cards, so you don't have to get them if you already have them. You don't need it, but it is like a cool way to reward stores. And I think that's like the one thing I would suggest that they could add to it, because and also it would be kind of nice to have options that you don't have to travel to events. Like I haven't been able to travel for a couple of years. The last time I was going to go to an event was Pro Tour LA, and then my laptop died, and I had to use the money for the trip to get myself a backup computer. And I didn't even get like the most high end one that I wanted. It was like I just had the money that I had, so I spent it on that. And I just haven't been able to travel since then. And so being able to just go to my store and pick up some alt art promos would be a really cool way to, foil out the deck. So I think that could be cool. But other than that, I think they're doing a good job.
Yeah, they're definitely doing a great job. And you made me think about a game that I played for a long time, just League of Legends. I know everybody can say, yes, we've all been there, or I'm sorry is normally the response you get when you say League of Legends. Yeah. Well, you've managed to stay pure. Yeah. But the thing is in that game, they had a lot of exclusive skins when the game first came out. 2009, 2010. The most notable ones of which are like PAX Twisted Fate from like the PAX convention, or Silver Kale, things like this. These are just characters. They had skins. They don't do anything in gameplay at all. It's just cosmetic. And they're really cool, but they're really, really rare. They're really hard to get. And so they commanded a ton of value on the secondary market from people. And you've never been able to get them since. Now, there were some methods you could like sort of get them extremely rare, like I'm talking like 1 in a million type of thing. But essentially they were so rare that you could never actually see one. I mean, I think I played against the skins like twice each in my 12 years of playing the game.
Oh, wow.
So
yeah.
While it's cool that you have something that's exclusive, when you have something, so like let's say a player bought the skin in 2010, they played a bunch, they're really happy, they're showing it off, a lot of people see it. Well, 10 years later, that person may not be playing the game. And now that thing it's different because you can't trade them. But yeah, it's gone. And you never got to actually experience it. And so the point of these versions is not just to be purchased and then that's done. They're meant to be, appreciated and used. And so I like the idea that if you have these alt arts, that you don't make them too rare, like event or convention exclusive, right? Battle hardened promos, like these event specific promos are good, but I think it's when it's a flesh and blood event, I feel differently about it. If it's a calling, if it's a pro tour, if it's known ahead of time and you can plan it in your travel, you can say, oh, is this for me or not? But if it's this is not a flesh and blood event, we release it 2 weeks before it starts, that the information that's coming, you're like, okay,
it's a big event. It's hard to get in at this point.
Yeah, so it's like, it feels like it's not serving the flesh and blood community. It feels like I'm not sure who it's for, right?
Well, and we had talked about it too. I'm going to be real, and I kind of want to talk about LL. Like you mentioned that this is an eternal format, that this is Gen Con. Like you had mentioned, like this is not the new audience appealing. Like LL decks are more for existing players who want to continue to play their old heroes. And so even if it's not just Prism and Viserai, like even recent ones, New just left, Azalea left, which actually quickly, when we were talking about the supply and demand part, another point about Codex is demand went down because we lost both New and Azalea, right? So 2 heroes that used it that were very popular just left, so the demand for new people picking up the card is down. That just to kind of back up your point there about the demand side. But it is kind of weird that they're using LL decks to appeal to a brand new audience. Like I would think that they would do like Ira and maybe Aurora if she hadn't have LL'd, but like a couple, like maybe Gravy Bones, like use or make like a new deck that's CC or Blitz to kind of promote new players getting in, maybe give them a promo, because that is like the weird thing. Like I know of so many people who, if the LL decks were in stores, they would snag one up just to have it, like just to be like, cool, I got an LL deck. Like I want people to get in, and we have several new players, one who has Syndra, so it's like, oh, just put your like Tome of Firebrands in there and you're ready to go. Like you could just slot those in. You got your 2 daggers, that's 2 of your chain links, you just need 2 attacks, boom, you're drawing cards like crazy. But it is strange that it's like LL decks, and these are things that like the established players want, and Gen Con seems like the new player, like this is to get them into the game. And but that being said, I think LL is an incredibly important format for everything we've been talking about, like the value of your cards. When your hero leaves CC, some of your cards become unplayable for a while, usually, unless there's another class. Like when Prism left, all the Late Illusionist stuff was just gone for a while. All the Icelander cards are still gone. All the Dromai stuff is still gone. But you can play them in Living Legend, and that's really important. So people retain the value and the use of their cards. And I do hope that format improves, but I don't know. Just Gen Con seems really strange. I'm a little disappointed. Like I would have loved to have picked up both Prism and Viserai because I have those heroes. And to be fair, I probably don't need the cards, but it'd be cool to have like the Armory decks just sleeved up as is to also be like, hey, we can play them together. That's the only one thing I will say is good though at Gen Con is the fact that there's two decks and they look like they're built to face each other. But then there's also the new equipment pieces, which are like, oh, it's in Gem Pack 3, but it's like, if they're really hard to get, they might command a very high price, and it feels kind of crappy that like that's the only way to get an equipment piece is either event exclusive decks or a gem pack.
Yeah, I think it's interesting on twofold there. So the first thing is that the new cards in the Armory deck that are confirmed to be in the Armory deck, which is the Halo of something, is the Halo of something. It's not Elimination, it's the other one. It's the new Halo card. And then there's the Helm of the Arc Knight, right? And so
which is not even that good.
Right. And so it's just tempered too. Yeah, exactly. So it's not really going to be moving the needle on. And the Prism card's also not that strong either. I've
heard there's like combo with it, but I think Halo's still probably better. Yeah. So maybe it's not as big of a deal.
You can do interesting stuff with it, but it's really, you have to jump through a lot of hoops, and it's not going to be the best thing for Prism.
That's fair.
For a long time,
so yeah, probably doesn't matter that they're new cards then, and that they're in gem packs. So it's probably not really an issue.
Exactly right. And so I think that for the Armory decks at Gen Con, that's fine, or the LL decks. But I think that like you're saying, if it's supposed to be the flagship format, right? Like you want to get the new players into LL, then they're going to be really sad when they can't play their hero in CC. And so unless LSS is going to really shift their focus towards supporting LL, I really don't get the messaging to the people at Gen Con, especially because a lot of people, when we went from CC and we introduced the LL system, a lot of people have had criticisms of the LL system over the years, especially as it's changed. And the LL system has bans, so it doesn't really do what it originally said to do, which is to have a playground to do all the most powerful things. You can no longer use Carrion Husk. You can no longer use Crown of Seeds. They went beyond just limiting powerful cards to one-ofs in your main deck. They've banned equipments. And so at this point, you're thinking, well, what's LL's point? Just to be CC, but with the cards that came out of CC? But still have bans? It's weird. And so I wonder how that is going to play going forward, because if you've got LL as a system where you can play any hero, any class, any deck, and there's still bans, then why does CC exist other than to basically be our rotation and just have LL as like our modern format? So we'll see how that goes with LSS going forward. I'm curious. I don't really play a lot of LL. There's not a ton of interest locally for it. People generally shy away from the really broken decks because they were broken and they don't want to play against that. The meta right now is super good, by the way, as well. I think that's part of it too. In CC.
The CC meta, yeah, it's very good.
Yeah, so I think that people are happy with the power level of the game in CC currently, and maybe if the CC gets, messed up, then people would go play LL, but either way, I think Gen Con, we've set our piece on that. Let's move on to just LL as a overall topic then. Right, first off, do you enjoy LL? Is it fun? Is it fun to play these heroes and these cards and these matchups?
So I've played a little bit of LL, not nearly as much as I'd like, and this is for a couple reasons. One, as you said, it is kind of hard to get people to be interested, because the thing with LL is that, like, if I wanted to build, let's say, a Briar deck, right, I actually think, like, Nimby Briar with the Skyward Serenade and all these other things, like, looks really interesting, and the only issue is that I would have to take apart my CC Florian deck. Actually, I was thinking Florian and Aurora, but now that she's gone, it's like, okay, well, I don't have to, but I would have to take apart Florian for some of the cards, meaning I have one less CC deck. If I wanted to do LL Prism, that means I have to take apart my CC Prism deck. And this is like the big issue with LL, is that in order to build decks, you have to kind of, take cards from your CC decks. And so it's not just the time that goes into it, because like I do YouTube, meaning I spend a lot of my time in this game just making it, editing videos and writing scripts and that, which means that I actually don't get to play the game as often as I would like, especially because I'm balancing it all with like a job and a relationship. Like I said, said, I'm having a kid soon, so like we're preparing for that. So like even the mental capacity of how much I could do at once is lower. So it's a lot of time investment. It's hard to get people into it. You have to destroy your CC decks to build LL decks. And it's just like a lot of investment. But I really like the idea of the format because it's the truly non-rotating. Yes, cards get banned and they do have to balance it. Not gonna lie, I almost wonder if like one day they're gonna have to say, listen, Starvo and Chain, they just gotta be out of the format. Maybe you make like an unbound format where it's like this is just everything is open. Maybe you restrict some cards because like Awakening and that. But maybe you say restrictions only and it is like the vintage format of the game. Because like and to be fair, one day the power level of this game, even CC, will likely reach like the Chain and Starvo levels where things will start to go up, and there will be heroes that are worse, obviously, but just like natural power creep as time goes on, like little by little. It's when you take leaps that it's a big issue, but like little by little, power creep is just like necessary. It just has to be a thing. I mean, we've already seen cards like Felling of the Crown and Conqueror of the High Seas are like these big bomb cards that just didn't really exist back in the day. Maybe some Guardian stuff, but they were like really expensive to play, whereas like Felling is just a blue, and you're just like, here, I'm gonna destroy your whole turn, and here's 8, you know. And it gets me towards my hero ability as well for Florian and Verdance. But I love the idea of LL because like when you talk about, like we were talking about how you foiled out your deck. Now you foiled out Prism. What happens when she hits Living Legend and she's gone, and then a new Prism comes in? Because there were cards in the old Prism that actually Prism's a bad example because a lot of old Prism cards were played in the new one. But if you look at like Vincent, like she's a different hero than Chain, so it's like even though she's had a Runeblade, she doesn't share all of Chain's cards. So if you had like foiled out all the Chain stuff, well, now you can only play him a Living Legend. And so if you're going to have people invest into the game and really foil out their heroes, like I had done a lot of foiling out with Enigma, right? Like that was the deck I dropped a lot of money on. And one of the reasons I want to play LL is also just to play her again. Like I know she's not the best, but I do think it'll be a format where you'll have the competitive scene, but I actually think it'll be good casually as well. Because if you're somebody who's only got a couple decks, you just play it here and there, maybe you just play it with friends or like casually with some people, which I actually think happens more than people realize, but they're just playing at home. They might watch a YouTube video or two and that's it. They don't really, engage online as much. Those type of people, if it rotates at a CC, they can just continue to play it in LL, and maybe they could even play a few cards that were not allowed in CC. But Chain and Starvo do scare me a bit because, like, I was, when Scepter Florian got like nuked out of CC, like the Channel My Heroic build is fine, but I'll be honest, after playing the Scepter build, I was like, man, this is personally, it's more cancerous, but it's way more fun. Like, I love doing the rune chant thing. That's what I play Florian for. And when they ban Germinate, like that actually still upsets me because I'm like, Everbloom is a Verdance card. Yes, it can be used in Florian, but it is a Verdance card, and I hate that we lost one of Florian's like most identifying cards for this. Like, wow, I'll gain a life and put like an Arcane Seeds on the bottom of my deck. Ooh. But then they banned Crown of Seeds in LL. So it's like, well, I was thinking, honestly, as terrible as it sounds, I was kind of thinking of like a CYB, like Thistlebloom and Life Florian build, like just tank for most of the game and then just throw like 50 rune chants, But then they banned Crown of Seeds, and I'm like, well, that was going to be my third resource use with the Count Your Blessings. So I guess I'm not doing that. So it is a format that needs some developing. And I know I've yapped on for a bit, so I'll close out here. But I think I think it's a big future of Fab, and that's why they're adding it to Worlds. But again, if they're adding it to Worlds, it's like, where are the LL decks, Armory decks, that are in stores for players to pick up? Like, that is the easiest way to get players into a format, is just say, buy this precon, and you can start playing. And, so I hope we do see some hit the stores.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, though, because a couple things to respond to there. But the first is that LL, every single card is legal if it's not banned. So any hero, if it's in CC, you can literally just directly transplant your CC deck to LL. Now, Are you going to have fun playing Betsy against Starvo? No, you are not. That is not a fair fight, and most of the heroes in CC cannot contend with the Chains, the OG Prisms, and the Starvos of the world, or Briar, things like that. Or Kano with tomes. I don't remember if they banned those yet in LL or not, but the Open the Floodgates stuff, I mean, someone brought a CC Kano deck and won an LL tournament, I remember. Something like that. So, do you want to bring your normal CC deck into that? Probably not. But it doesn't really solve the issue of entrenched, competitive, powerful players with powerful decks against new players who are less experienced and struggling to have fun, right? And I think that LL therefore is like, is it fun? Is it something that I play? I mean, I like playing Prism. I like playing the OG Luminaris. I like getting to deck build fresh again when new cards come out that the new Prism can't really use. I'm like, well, okay, whatever. I go back to LL. I'm like, wow, all of a sudden I have all these deck building options and all these matchups I have to think about. Versus, so I think it's more fun for that reason. But when you're actually playing the games, the power level is so much higher. The amount of combos that happen, the amount of really early kills that happen, and it just seems like it's hard to justify playing it in a lot of cases because yeah, we got some bans, but there was still some really toxic play patterns that you had to go against, like Stubby's Fi, just chain drawing cards for free every turn, Starvo getting free dominate every turn. So I think it's kind of fine that all those heroes have gone to one place. But I do hope that LL becomes a format where people can use the cards that they bought and play an internal format game. Because when I first got into the game, I've said this before, but I was sold on the fact that it was an eternal format game, that no matter what happened, I would be able to play my cards and I didn't have to play the best thing. I never wanted to play the best thing. I liked Prism, and at the time, you could only get LL points by winning like a calling or higher, and you only got 1 point. So at the time, there's like 3 callings per year or something, or 3 big events per year. So it would take you 3 years minimum to get close to LL. And so I was like, okay, great. I'll have Prism for a couple years. No matter how bad she gets, I can play her. Sounds great. And by that time, they'll definitely release a new one, so I can play that, and I'll get to use the same cards. But as we've seen, that's not exactly how it worked out. They've changed it a lot since then. The scope has changed. And so, when Prism LL, like you said, I made a whole video about how, not like sad because it was kind of whatever, it's just a card game, but like I was let down. I was like, well, I got to put all these cards in the binder and put them up for a year. And that didn't feel good. So I was very happy when she got brought back, even though it wasn't in the same form. But there's some, feels bads there too.
And let's be real, when she came back, that new weapon was terrible. Was so dog water. Oh my goodness. I feel worse for the chain players. Like, not only did you not get your hero, you got a hero that wasn't even playable until like a year and a half later when Rosetta came out. Like, and actually gave you some Runeblade support. Because Dust Till Dawn is like one of the worst sets. Like, it's definitely up there as like, there's some really good cards, but like most of it is just garbage. It's actually kind of crazy.
That. I put a poll to my Flesh and Blood group chat about which sets were their favorite, like by enjoyment. Not rating it by power level or anything, but just personal enjoyment. Everybody put Dusk Till Dawn at either bottom tier or just above bottom tier.
Just above, like, Bright Lights, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, it was a bad experience to open because so many of the cards for these underpowered heroes or returning heroes were just, why is this in the game? Like, there's the light instant that stops Spore from a shadow source, and you're thinking,
it's not even a draft set, so it's like none of these have any use.
Like, maybe you could argue it's like, oh, you can build a cube with this, but at the same time, it's only playable in light. So, like, anyway, it was a weird set. There were some really cool cards in it, like the Marvel Angels and the Marvel Levia and the cool expansion slot. Yeah. And that's a crazy hit, right? But,
and I didn't even know it was $1,000 at the time. I was like, oh, a Marvel Levia. My buddy's like, dude, that's $1,000. I'm like, wait, seriously? Like, I didn't even know it existed. So I ended up trading it for a bunch of Prism Marvels.
Yeah, and the Prism Marvels are gorgeous. I'm super happy that I have all of them. But at the same time, and I was really thankful that LSS let me spoil the Empyrean Rapture. Like, that was a super awesome card to get to bring to the world, and I'm never going to sell that card ever, right? Because it's just got that special memory attached. But
I unfortunately got the one Marvel Angel that nobody plays.
Themis, yeah.
Yeah.
Or Metis.
Or no,
Metis.
Metis, Metis. Yeah. It's gorgeous art, but like, and actually it's not a terrible card, but it's just like, when you think of Figments to cut, it is kind of like the first option, right? And it's like, man, that sucks, but still a great card.
It is one of the best artworks, though. I do agree. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so Dusk Till Dawn, not the best set. I think people were upset because when they tried to bring back the classes that were out of the game for so long, they really just didn't stick the landing on delivering what people liked about those classes from the beginning. Mm-hmm. Like, Chain had this like sequencing thing going on, and Vincent kind of did that, but Vincent just did not function when she came out, and neither did Prism, really. and Prism also was extremely, and still is extremely Herald focused. And I remember back when I first started making videos, the thing about Prism, which I tried to do, was eliminate all the Phantasm. I think I ran, 15 blue Heralds, yellow Erudition, and yellow War Tune, and that was it. I cut just had a lot of blocking cards and a lot of auras and stuff because that was better. So it feels bad to be stuck with using Phantasm. That's just a personal gripe. But if we want to make LL format more appealing, right? I'm going to lead off here and just say that I think LL format needs to have cards designed specifically for it to help bring it into line. I think that the fact that you've got Starvo, the fact that you've got Chain, the fact that you've got these incredibly powerful heroes which speedrun to Living Legend, like Zen, Aurora, all these characters, you need to have some really super powerful equalizers to make it so that other heroes can play the game. If that's macros, if that's armor pieces, if that's offhand equipments, if that's something that starts in play that helps people, again, equalize the power levels between the decks and counter some of those really powerful strategies, I think that would go a long way. Like, for instance, I haven't thought this through at all, so forgive me if this is absolutely broken, but like, if you could have a macro slot, for instance, in LL, that your deck gets to bring, you get to start with it in play, and it's like a passive, or if it's like a Sanctuary of Aria thing where you can only use it once per game, but it sits there as a threat, and you've got Chain, and you've got a macro that's like, Sanctuary of Themis, right? And it says neither player can play from Banish Zone this turn. You pay like 4 resources into it or something. Now, Chain always has to think, oh man, can I really afford to just Soul Shackle with reckless abandon, try to do these big turns if my opponent's going to slam the brakes on me, like the emergency stop button, which is like once per game. But then you can at least have that moment where everybody has a chance to say, hey, my deck literally can't contend with Chain unless I can get him to slow what he's doing down, or like Starvo, right? Where it's like, oh, you can turn off the, his hero ability to do the dominates and stuff, or like on hits and all that. So I don't know. Something like that, I think, would be a way to distinguish Living Legend from CC as well, because CC doesn't have that. You could have macros like with Treasure Island have been a huge hit. People love Treasure Island in the high seas for draft. And so I don't see why macros couldn't be slowly dropped into LL to try and make the game about more than just, oh, let me do my broken thing. It can make it more, oh, here's this alternative resource or alternative win condition. How can I get around with this powerful thing this person's doing and try and go for this other resource?
So I think I'll be honest, I don't think that they'll ever do macros for LL. I will say I think macros not only are good for limited, I think macros are the future of casual formats like multiplayer. Like if you're just playing UPF, which you had mentioned Deathmatch Arena earlier. I just want to say I hate that card so much. I hate the only left and right rules that they established, and now they're printing all these cards that go, oh, if you play this card in your deck, you can get around the rules. It's like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to play cards that get rid of a rule that shouldn't be there in the first place. That's just my little gripe about UPF. We never play with that rule anyways when we have 4 people, because it's just like, it just creates this weird, like, 2 people keep aggressing on 2 people, and then it's like 2 guys are at like, oh, sorry, I hit my mic. 2 guys are at like 6 life, and then the other 2 are at like 15. It creates that scenario so many times, and nobody plays with 5 players. That's just not even feasible with, like, if you're playing at a square table, which most people do, it's like, how do you even fit a 5th player properly there? But the idea of macros, like Treasure Island, could be a very fun thing for multiplayer. But I think for a competitive 1v1 format, I don't know if they're going to do that for LL. I just don't see it being something that they'll do. But I kind of agree with you where it's like, not every hero is going to be balanced. You mentioned Betsy. I think they even mentioned at some point that like they didn't really plan for these heroes to be like beloved. They were just like, we just kind of put him in for limited, but we made him adult. And it's like, now I think they've learned that lesson where Scurv is only a young only hero. He's not adult, because they're like, oh, if we make him adult, people want to play these decks and we just want them to be for draft. But like, For instance, Enigma. Like, I'm not beating a lot of these aggressive decks with Enigma. As strong as she is, like, it's going to be really rough. But what do they do? Like, do they make an Enigma specialization? The problem with that is then if they make a second Enigma, will that new card break CC if she comes back? And that's, I think, one of the biggest problems they're going to have with LL is, like, they can use the restricted list to bring some power level down in LL only, but there are just some heroes like Starvo and Chain where their abilities are so over the top broken that it's like, you'd have to give heroes access to new cards in their class or talent or specializations that work just with them. I mean, they did that regrowth whatever card for Briar. It's a Briar specialization that came in Rosetta. But Briar already was a decent hero, not the best, but she was decent. But there are some like slightly underpowered heroes, and like even Prism in LL, like OG Prism, most people are playing this one. Like they're playing the Awakener of Soul because just it's a little bit better, and the Figments are a bit more powerful because you just can't really do the old Aura strategy as well because most decks will just run you over. Like you got Zen, Phi, like you had mentioned the Stubbies decks. You've got Chain and Starvo, Starvo maybe is a bit better, but he can also just beat you down with so many good cards, especially with Mastery Pack Guardian coming out and, Rosetta giving him more elemental stuff. Like just, it is this conundrum, and I'm not exactly sure what they're going to do, but I do agree where there's going to be a lot of heroes where it's like they are really going to need like a pump up. Like they're going to need something to make them more viable in that format, because I do think LL is important because people are going to want to play their decks as they go. And I think as more players come in, they buy a deck and it rotates, more and more people are going to be like, I kind of do want to play it just so I can play Aurora again, or just so I can play Prism again, or I can play Enigma again, And I think as it grows, New is a big one that just went, right? And Azalea. So I think people are going to start gravitating just to get that experience again of playing their hero. And I think, just one last thing, I think at Armories, if there is big prizing on the line, people are going to spike it, and tournaments are going to show up with the best deck. I think at Armories, you'll actually probably find a lot of people just bringing their favorite, even if it's not as good, because there's like, I just want to play my hero again. So I think Armories might be a little more balanced because, like, yeah, somebody might be playing Chain, but then this guy's playing Azalea, this person's playing, like Briar, this person's playing, I don't know, like Syndra even still, but just with like Toma Firebrand. So you're going to see like a lot of diversity just because I think it's a format where if it's not a high-end tournament, people are just going to play their favorite deck just because they love the hero.
Yeah,
just don't bring
two
Betsy.
Things. Yeah, it's true. Don't bring Betsy. But I think there's two things. One, the obvious answer is just ban heroes that are broken. Right? Like, I know LSS is really trying to not ban Starvo and really trying to not ban Chain, but like
they're too broken.
You can't, if you're not going to do character specific bans, then you are sniping so many cards out of the card pool just to make a good hero still the best, but just not so the best that people get mad.
And then every other hero
gets hit as collateral damage. Yeah. Starvo just probably should be banned and just said, hey, he was too powerful for Living Legend. I think Pokemon enjoyers will understand Mega Rayquaza. It was banned from Ubers.
Yeah. I was actually thinking of that. The Uber format, they made it, they turned it into a format that's actually playable, and then they made a second format that was truly just, this is the everything goes. Yeah. So I think they should do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Living Legend.
Anything goes.
Well, I was going to say Living Legend could be Magic's Legacy, where it's most cards, but there's a very strict ban list. And then Vintage is where it's like just like the anti-cards, and they limit some of the most powerful cards to one. Like you can play Black Lotus in Vintage, but you can only run one. It's limited to one, but that's what they could do for LL, where it's like only restrictions or like make an Unbound or whatever format, only restrictions, and then LL can be like, listen, some of these heroes, like, we had to hit them, they're just too good.
I think it's time for LSS to consider letting Starvo die and just saying he was too powerful this world, let's seal him away, and then let LL actually be able to breathe. Because I think, that's really the easiest thing for them to do. If they're already going to ban equipments, they may as well just ban Starvo.
Yeah, it's gonna suck for the it'll suck for the Starvo and Chain players. And like, I've played a bit of Chain. He was one of the decks that I built when I first tried out LL. And it is fun. It's fun to play. It's a powerful deck. It is actually like really cool to play. But again, like when you look at the overall health of the format, and if you want to turn it into a competitive format, there is going to be some point where like, are we really going to ban another 10, like all the new Runeblade cards and all the new Elemental cards as they come out because like they're broken in LL? Like, is it really viable? Or they're either going to have to ban the cards specifically for heroes, like Chain can't use Carrion Husk, and Starvo can't use like some of the cards that got banned for him, but other heroes can. Or again, like we have been suggesting, maybe just Chain and Starvo, just listen, they're too good, they're gone. Now the format can open up, we can unban a couple things, you know.
Yeah, because I think it's less about, oh, you're just wanting Starvo to get banned because blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, the fact that so many heroes can't play cards because Starvo exists, and yet Starvo is still the best.
Mhm.
I mean, you're not accomplishing anything by banning those cards, other than, like giving people a false hope that they can play a different hero. Like, again, any future Ice card, any future Earth card, Lightning, Guardian, Bravo, Specialization, Generic, it can just break Starvo wide open. Chain, same thing with the Runeblade cards. And so every other Runeblade suffers in LL because of it. Viserai, Vinset, Briar, Florian.
Yeah, like losing Deadwood Dirge and Viserai, it's like, and even Florian, like if you want to stack, it's like, well, that actually sucks. Like it's not a broken card in either of those decks, but in Chain, being able to pop your Soul Shackle to make 3 rune chance is too strong. But in every other Runeblade, it's like it's just a reasonably good card.
Exactly. So I think that if LSS wants to make LL have more appeal, it needs to allow people to play their hero and be able to win games by not leaving the most absolutely degenerate, broken heroes in the game, because you can ban cards. If you're going to ban cards, just ban cards. If you don't want to have a bans format, make an open format. Just say, hey, anything goes. And then you've solved both problems. You've got people who can play Starvo, they can play whatever they want. It's kitchen table fab, no ban list, just do whatever you want to do. And it can be as degenerate as you want. Don't make that competitive. Make LL competitive, make LL curated, make sure that certain heroes just aren't in the game anymore. And you can let people try to play them for a while. And if there's a problem like the Aether Vein, Kraken's Aether Vein Burdens, you can ban the weapon. And then there's no problem.
Yeah, there are some cards where that's just like everybody's unanimously like, that's okay. Yeah, get rid of the weapon. We understand. Like some card design, that's the thing. Like some things are going to have to be banned in LL. Like it's just the reality of a game where things don't rotate. New design is going to break old stuff. But and to be fair, and I want to just emphasize this, and I know you've been saying this too, where it's like we're not saying Starvo and Chain because like I hate facing those heroes. Like I said, I had fun playing Chain and even Starvo. Weirdly enough, my friends and I tried Singleton for a while, like just 60 card Singleton, and I built Starvo for that because I was like, I have a bunch of like one-ofs of a lot of his Majestics, but not multiple copies because I don't play Guardian. So I was like, whatever, I'll just build a Singleton. He is fun. It's really fun to line up your 3 elemental cards and be like, oh, I'm gonna go huge this turn. But when, like, as we said, when it's creating so much collateral damage for so many other heroes and, like, just kind of nuking them out of the format, it's like, well, how many other decks have to suffer for just a couple of, like, broken heroes? Like, even with Zen, like, losing Traverse, it would suck in LL because, like, Enigma and New not as much, but Enigma kind of needs it to compete in that format. Like, without it, she's not going to do much. But, like, Stubbies, for example. I think Zen definitely use it. Stubbies is legal in LL, isn't it still?
I couldn't tell you.
I think it is. If it is, maybe I'm wrong. I think it is, but like, that's a card where it's like, okay, yeah, the ninjas are taking a hit, but like it might bring them back down to earth without like destroying the decks. But it is just that question of like, when there are broken heroes, like how many cards are you going to have to ban just to make everything else legalized, right? And if they want to make this a big competitive format, I think it's just going to take a lot more dev time too. Let's be real. Like, and it's going to be easier to break. I imagine it'll be like Modern for a while, and then like Legacy as time goes on, if we're comparing it to Magic, where like in Modern, until they push their design where we're like, we're just going to break everything with every set, and push the design like crazy every single set. Before then, Modern was the format where like every time a new set would come out, you might have like 1, maybe 2 cards that enter it in a couple decks, and that was it, because it was like the power was already so high with every card in the game that it was difficult to get into. And I think LL will be that way until they do something like a Zen or a Starvo or a Chain again, or Briar pre-errata, which, like, to be fair, might happen. I do think I actually wonder if Gravy Bones might be really good in LL, even though like he could get run over. You also get to play Cashin in all of the pirate decks. Actually, even Puffin with Cashin might be a little gross, so that could be a card that they maybe have to restrict if those heroes do end up being good, especially as we get more Necromancer cards. I could actually see Gravy Bones being like a huge menace in that format over time, because again, being able to just Pot of Greed for free for like no cost really, because you just make gold like crazy seems pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's true. LL is a cool idea. You want to be able to play the hero that earned its spot among the pantheon of other heroes that have won many tournaments, that were beloved or vilified heroes, which were able to terrorize the metagame. And or gracefully sunset like Azalea has. She had her arc for sure, as did many others. And so I think as long as LSS recognizes that the point of LL for people is that you get to play more options than CC, I think that they can adjust the format towards that goal. I think that if they're happy with CC being the place where, hey, there's a number of top decks, most things are not playable really competitively, because of course you cannot make everything playable competitively. It's just impossible, without while keeping them asymmetric, right? At the same time, LL, you want to have as many decks as possible being able to at least win a game and not just get completely steamrolled over. So if there are heroes that are doing that, get them out of there, and then hopefully it cleans up, and then people don't feel so bad about playing it and prepping for it and stuff. Because why would you put thought into a deck when you just know, oh, Starvo's the right choice? Like, there's just no reason to bring anything else. And even if you try it, then you eventually people have found out, like, oh yeah, it's just Starvo still.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and
Okay.
to be fair, there will always be top decks. But what you don't want is you don't want a couple S plus tier, like triple S plus tier, and then everything else is D tier in comparison. That's not a good meta. But what you want is like maybe even in the current existent, maybe the bans have worked and Chain and Starvo are still S tier, but then you have like a handful of heroes that are A tier, and then a good number of heroes that are B tier, and then still a good number that are below that. But where like, okay, if I'm playing an A tier deck, I might not beat the S tiers, but I can beat the other A tiers, and I can like have still some matchups. So like if you're going to a big tournament, you're probably not going to win unless you're playing one of the best decks or like something that targets those decks. However, if you're playing at like an armory, like I said, a lot of people are just going to play whatever deck they have, right? Like they're just going to play their favorites. And then they're going to, as long as you can beat a few of the other decks there, that's what matters. Like, as long as you're not just getting steamrolled by 3 chains in a row or 2 chains in a Starvo. If it's like, oh, I faced a Prism, then I faced a Dromai, and then I faced a Starvo, and maybe there's 4 rounds, you're like, and then like some random person was playing like Tekla Vossen for some reason, and I got to face that. It'd be, I think it could be a very good format, but yeah, it needs some curation. And I think as time goes on, like if they keep having to ban cards for Starvo and Chain, there will probably come a day where it's like, should we just get rid of these heroes? Because if they keep busting the format, then, because they can't design CC and LL at the same time. That's just not a super feasible thing. Not for the size right now.
One thing I thought of, this will be kind of my last point, is why don't they just tweak the balance of heroes by removing or giving them HP in LL?
Actually, to be honest, they could do a thing where if they make a new Starvo and a new Chain that are slightly different, and then they say, we're going to ban the old ones. We know you love these hero abilities, but they still have a similar, like it's still Chain and it's still Bravo, but they're like Chain something, a different name, and Bravo a different name, and say, listen, these two are broken, so we made new ones with similar abilities or still strong abilities that can compete. You can basically take your current deck and translate it here. Like maybe Bravo does the thing, but maybe it's like you get Dominate and +2, but not Go again. And it's like it's a slightly weaker version of it that's still strong, but it's like we had to make these new heroes that are LL only, and maybe Chains is like you said with health, maybe he only has like 34 health or something, so he's a little easier to kill. Because like one of Chain's things is that he steamrolls after a number of turns, but if he's got less health to work with, you might actually get him to a spot where he's not able to do it because he just doesn't have the time to build up to the 5 or 6 shackles that let him do the gigantic turn. And that blood debt actually does matter because he's got less life to work with. Like New Prism, a balancing thing for her is she's only got 32 life. And I'm sure you know this, as a Prism player, most games go where like you go to like 8 life within a number of turns before you finally stabilize and turn it around with the board state. But like that is the balancing part of her. Decks can just run you down. And that actually, I don't hate that option. Maybe that is like in the future where it's like, we'll make slightly weaker versions. Here's the LL. We're banning the original because they're just too good.
We're not even making new versions, but literally just saying, hey, instead of having cards banned, you just have 10 less life. Like Starvo with 25 life may still be good enough. But hey, now that's 15 life that you don't have to worry about anymore. And it's easy to tweak that number, especially over time. So like the way I kind of envision it is like, have you ever played Keyforge? You know what that is?
But I know what it is. Where you buy decks and they're like sealed decks that come like randomized already.
Yeah, so Keyforge was like a TCG that people tried to make, and it was like randomly generated decks, and that's not super fun. But the cool thing that I'm thinking of from it was they had this like bindings mechanic where when you won games, like official games, you got a mark on that QR code, like that deck's ID got a mark, and that made it have less advantages in the game, so that the more you win, the more handicap is put onto the deck, and the more you lose, the less handicap you have on the deck. And so that would be a similar thing with HP and LL, where it's like, okay, Starvo, maybe he just terrorizes everything for a while with no bans, but and so he accrues, these bindings or whatever you want to call it, or wounds, whatever you want to call it, scars, and then he gets less and less life until he's balanced. And then if he starts losing a lot, then those can start falling off until he has that equilibrium point where it's like, okay, is this hero balanced with less health or more health? Like maybe a hero just never wins, and so it's like, okay, well maybe Valda or Betsy needs like 60 health or 50 health or something, and then that actually makes up for that difference, because that's a whole other turn that you could throw damage at your opponent, especially if they have less life. So
I don't know how feasible that would be, like just in the macro sense of like having to tell players like, oh, your hero has less health or whatever. And there's another idea. So have you ever played Slay the Spire?
yes.
Okay, I've been great gaming that. I love Slay the Spire. I've got hundreds of hours into it at this point. I play it on my phone all the time at work when I should be working. But no, one thing they could do is an idea that would be really interesting, as you said, is they win. I don't think they do this, but it'd be kind of cool if they, so when you get like a curse or a wound or something where it's like, it's an unplayable, it's just there, it just clunks your hand up. Like imagine if they did it where like, hey, these winning heroes, like Starvo has to have he gets one added wound to his deck where like it's just a blank card basically. Maybe it just pitches. It's like a titanium bauble where it doesn't have any effect. It's like
or it's a red bauble.
Generic. Yeah, something like that where it's like, hey, I don't think they'll ever do that, because that just seems feasibly like trying to do that in a card game just seems, it's easier in a video game. But something, yeah, I don't hate that idea. I think the most feasible would just be to say, because kind of like Briar's errata, where they're like, oh, it's a once per turn. That's at least kind of like easy enough to explain, like, oh, they errated it to once per turn. That's like, okay, it's still the same ability, I just can't do it a million times. But I think that making new versions of the heroes that are like a slightly weaker, just a little bit, just brings them down to earth might be the way forward, but I don't know. They might not want to do any of this. They might just be like, listen, we'll just keep banning cards because we want these heroes to exist. Because, like, to be fair, I don't blame people for liking Starvo or Chain. I like playing powerful decks. That's why I liked OG Prism, Like, it's people like to win. They like to do powerful things, but there is that question of, like, the rest of the health of the format.
I do wonder, because we always focus on ban lists, which is cards you're not allowed to play. What about cards you're required to play? Cards are required to play in your deck to play the hero. Like, literally crack baubles. You're like, okay, if you want to play Starvo, you have to start with 8 crack baubles in your deck.
That's
the same thing as the wound thing is Slay the Spire, where it's like, hey, you're just going to have some dead draws in your deck, and they're still going to pitch a little bit. They're still going to be there. But yeah, that's the price you pay for playing all the good cards. Then you can probably reduce the number of bans. Maybe that gameplay experience is terrible because you're worried
losing
about,
because you drew 2 of them,
variance, right? Or winning because you didn't hit any of them, right? But
yeah,
but I don't know. I think that would be interesting to at least try. Like, okay, you have to start with this many. Maybe it's not crack baubles. Maybe it's like, even worse card or titanium baubles, whatever it is. But I think that could be interesting. But LSS has that job, not us. So.
Yeah, it is an interesting thing. Like I said, maybe this gets solved by just natural power creep. There'll be enough heroes that can match the power level over time, and that they can, buff them. But yeah, it is going to be difficult, because again, like if they're designing cards for LL, maybe they make cards that are LL only, and how how in the gravy deck they have cards at the bottom that are stamped CC. Maybe they have ones that are stamped LL, or they have like a little LL symbol next to the rarity symbol, and so it's like this is LL only, and so it's like they don't affect C. Actually, that could be the solution, to be honest, of like once LL becomes a big enough format, they're like, listen, we're going to make hate cards for some of the best heroes, but we're just not going to print them in CC, just so that we don't have to worry about them breaking CC in the future. So they can be like, hey, Enigma's not good in LL. Here's an LL only Enigma card that is a Mystic Illusionist, and it is like a really good card to deal with the LL format only, but it's got that little stamp at the bottom, so it's only LL playable. That could actually be the easiest solution. That's like the most sustainable moving forward.
You could even like put a keyword on them, like myth or something. So like, how we have the legend keyword for like,
one-ofs, yeah,
one-ofs and stuff. Then it'd be like myth, which would be like 0 of unless you're an LL, or it's like, oh, this can only be put in your deck if you're an LL. That could be a clean way to do it.
Yeah.
But
I think the LL stamp would, like they did with the CC and the gravy deck, I think that's like the easiest way, because to be fair, Magic does this with like modern and standard. There's cards that are in other formats that aren't legal in, all of them. So it's like It's not that difficult to understand. When you're looking up like what cards are accessible, especially because we have websites like Fabrary where even for Project Blue, they just have what cards are available and what aren't already there. So if you make a Project Blue deck, you don't have to worry about, oh, is this card legal here? You just can't put it in if it's not. So having deck build, sorry, I keep hitting my mic arm. Having deck builders like that, I think just kind of makes it way easier for people to understand what is and isn't allowed in a format. So I think that LL only cards, and now that I've thought about it, I actually think that's probably the solution they would go with to start, is like, we'll just give heroes cards in LL, like with Briar, her new card, like it's to buffer up an LL, but maybe she gets a CC, a new Briar and CC. I don't know if we will. There are some heroes I think they are just retiring, like Chain. I don't think we'll get another Chain anytime soon. But if they want to bring heroes back, like Prism, I could see Enigma coming back, Azalea, right? Beloved heroes. I think that making LL versions only is a good way to make sure they don't break Classic Constructed, and only target, like, hey, you don't need to deal with Chain in CC, so you don't need this overpowered card to deal with Chain in CC. We just need it for LL.
Yeah. Well, I think whatever LSS does, we'll be happy to take a look, check it out, and
we'll only be angry.
Only angry. Only
angry.
Mad.
We're TCG players. We have to complain about everything.
Yeah, we have to get mad on Twitter or something. So
exactly.
Yeah, but thanks for coming on the channel. Really appreciate the
thanks
conversation.
For having me on.
And I hope everybody at home and got to enjoy watching as well. So leave a comment about your thoughts about Living Legend and alt arts. We'd be happy to take a look and just have that dialogue going. So until next time, keep your eyes on the Pro Tour, keep your eyes on LSS, and keep your eyes out for Dusk Till Dawn or Monarch 3, where we get some more Prism goodness. So,
and let's hope Syndra or Slippy win the Pro Tour, so Gravy Bones doesn't get more points, and the other decks that are countering him are closer to LL.
Exactly. All right. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for having me on.